All right, we're here for a meeting of the building committee. It's August 20, 2019. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks everybody. So the first item on the agenda is minutes from our last meeting. Sarah, thank you for taking those. Russ pointed out just one typo. It's on page 3. It should be GMP as in Mary instead of GNP.
It's there a couple times, I think.
Yep. Other than that, I didn't notice anything. Does anybody else? It's
The third paragraph down, it's in the first two sentences at
Yep.
least. For the first two lines, I should say. M, yeah, guaranteed maximum price, which may be useful in the minutes at least once to put in parentheses or something, so somebody reading it.
Oh, the door was unlocked. I just unlocked it. Maybe I automatically relocked it.
so if there are no other changes, can I get a motion to approve those minutes of July 16th?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Greg, give us an update, would you?
I will. There's a lot going on. Although this is the meeting from last month, but things are moving quite quickly at the site. Usually what I do is try to take one building at a time. And elementary building, we are very close to getting things done. We're in good shape. The final paving will go on Thursday and Friday of this week. We have a lot of contractors still working in the building, but things are coming together quite well at the elementary school. You can see, if you go by now, you'll see a whole lot of difference out front there, much larger parking lots, and all the stormwater systems are in place, and so it's a really noticeable change on that. So
When's opening day?
that's going quite well. We did have one positive piece that I wanted to touch base on. We carried $100,000 for unsuitables. It came in at $80,000, which was a good thing. So that was a nice piece. We are in the midst of putting our impact glass film on and getting our access systems and our card systems and our camera systems and all of our electrical and communications and intercom and everything up and running at the elementary school. So that's all moving forward quite well. At the high school,
Assuming it hasn't been, when is the first day of school?
first day of school for students is the 3rd.
September 3rd?
Yes. Teachers come back on the 27th, and then they're there the 27th, 28th, 29th, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and they're not on the 30th, which is the Friday.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Greg, on that,
And we delayed this, right, this year by a week or two?
yeah, just like last year, so we could get that extra weekend. Kind of like going back after Labor Day anyways. But, so Greg, just so the committee knows about the issue with the DES out back in the letter from Ransom and the
Sure.
status of all that. Why don't you explain that from square one?
Sure. When we purchased the what's called the McGrath property, which is where our bus loop comes in, our new bus loop, there was identified materials or hazardous materials on the site, which was old lead paint cans that were buried. They used to call them farmers' junkyards or farmers' trash pits. And so we had lead paint and we had arsenic that was found there. So we contracted with a company called Ransom Environmental, who came in, did the survey, did the test pits, and removed quite a bit of material out there. So we just got the letters from DES, Department of Environmental Services, requesting more information regarding that area. And so Ransom has come back with some information to DES. We don't know if DES is going to require us to remove more or additional materials. There's a question of about 15 cubic yards of possible contaminated areas.
Their letter had asked us to do that most recently, right? And
Correct.
then- So Ransom, our consultant, our environmental consultant, has written back to them. This was kind of a surprise, because we thought that that issue was done.
You're 100% correct. And
Yeah.
we had no reason to believe we had anything else happening with that. They have notified and sent a letter of response to DES saying that they're comfortable with what was removed. Not DES, but Ransom did. And so we're waiting for DES's response to that. DES may come back and ask us to remove additional materials, or may accept the findings that Ransom has. To give you an idea where this is actually located, that McGrath property, if you actually go all the way towards the back of the property, down the little embankment there towards Moonlight Brook, is the impacted area. So it's outside of where our students will be, and our stormwater systems and our PE playground and all of that. So it's outside of that area, but it's something that if we have to deal with, DES wants us to deal with, we will be dealing with that.
That's that sandy slope that's out there.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was, old paint cans, car parts, and all of those kind of things is what was found out back there, so.
But when we pulled up the elementary school parking lot and stuff like that, everything was,
Yeah, that was a
No
different
issue.
one, but luckily that didn't involve a DES issue for us. That was primarily where they put the construction debris and bags and junk when they did the elementary school back in the 1980s. So we ran into that product. It's not a suitable product to build a parking lot over, so we had to dig that all out and put in all new fill, and so we could get a proper driveway or
So
parking lot.
ultimately, if we don't prevail with the state on that issue, we may need to be taking that material out of there. And it's costly, because you just can't dump it somewhere else. It has to be treated, and we did a little of that initially, and they're just asking us to do more. What's strange is that they, came back sort of out of the blue and hit us with that.
It was
nothing,
probably even sitting on somebody's desk.
nothing DES does is strange, of course, moving.
Yeah,
So-
they gave us 3 weeks to deal with. Ransom got back in about 2 weeks to DES, and they came back and said it'll be 3 to 4 weeks before they have a response to DES's, or to Ransom's letter.
So
If we end up having to remove more material from there, dispose of more material, will it entail ripping up that road again?
No,
Okay.
no. This is actually, if you come into that McGrath property where the bus loop is, there's a grassed area at the back that runs down, as Skip said, a sandy slope area. It's actually way back there. So it's outside that roadway.
So there's that issue. Just Greg, we talked between last meeting about the traffic pattern.
Correct.
Just kind of go over that, so
Sure.
everybody's apprised
So we talked about the track pattern as
at the elementary.
people may know at the elementary. This past spring, we opened up the bus loop so that the buses could do a drop-off out back where they're intended to as per design. We had some pretty good traffic jams and some impact there. One of the issues is we didn't have the two-way traffic coming off of 152 yet, because that route hadn't been opened up for us yet, because it was still a one-way. So right now, what we're doing is we're going to start the school year as planned, that was done by our civil engineers, Ty and Bond, for the buses to continue out the back side of the building, and then the two-way traffic off of 152, which is the old one-way traffic out of the elementary, and there is actually two-way traffic off of Durrell, but we're going to try to limit that two-way traffic so that it all comes off of 152, which will allow us to stack or line up the cars for drop-off through the parking lot and around to the front of the building, so kind of creating a loop area through there. It also keeps the buses having a free access to get out of the property because they go out of the Durrell side. So we've talked
So-
about that
So they
extensively.
won't be able to come in from Durrell?
Durrell is technically a two-way, but we're setting it up so that during certain hours, it is a one-way. So we're putting some signage out there saying, between 7
One
and
way, as
8:30.
in the buses going out?
Yep. Yeah, because it really impacts the buses with the cars backed up on that side to
Sure.
make that swing turn. So we're gonna go that route with it initially. If we find that isn't suffice, we feel there's a safety issue or it's not a good flow, we will then look at addressing that after into another method. We will have to go to the DOT for another level of approval on that because of, we were permitted in a certain flow pattern. But we'll address that as we go forward with that. We'll take a look at, see, is it working or do we have to address it differently? And so that is one thing that is hanging out there.
Quick follow-up, the 15 cubic yards, which I gather is what we may have to remove additionally. Is there a ballpark price on that?
It depends on what it truly tests positive for, because if it's, for instance, the lead, we have to actually ship it out of state. The last batch went to Arizona to be dealt with, and the arsenic went to Connecticut. So it depends on what the
Population
levels
control.
are and what they find when they dig it out, where we have to ship it. So one of them is very expensive. The Arizona shipping is expensive. But I hesitate to give any kind of cost projections because I don't know what it's gonna, what we're gonna pull up.
Okey-doke, thank you.
I think that covers the elementary school. Any other questions about that? And we talked about doing a tour. We're gonna put that off until in
Yeah, that
September
would
at
be
least.
great.
At least, maybe October. I mean, maybe we can do a tour early, but I'm talking about having sort of an open house so people can come in and see the work that's been done. But we got a lot on our plates in the next couple of weeks. We'll kind of consider that once things settle out and school started and we're back up and running.
Yeah, I think if there's a chance that the committee can get in there with the tour before the open house, just so we seem a
Yeah.
little better educated on where we are and what's been done, and people
I
may
suspect
ask questions.
next meeting, Russ, we can do that, like
I would
mid-September.
feel more comfortable next
If
meeting
it's
then,
just
yeah.
us, before the meeting or something, yeah.
Okay.
Give you an update on the high school. Things are moving along quite well. There was quite a bit of demo that had to happen during this summer. And I think some of you were able to see some of that as we had some impromptu reviews at the school. If you go up past there now, the final paving's done, the striping, the parking areas are all completed. The front entry is up and built and bricked, and actually this week, I've been informed that the new sign, the Newmarket Junior Senior sign will be put up there, which is a brushed stainless steel letters, and as well as the event entrance on the side. The new west additions, those are all up and done, and they're actually being cleaned and final painting, touch up, and that is all being done, as well as the east side where we had, the new kitchen and boiler rooms and fitness area, the weight room and coaches rooms, those are all up and ready. The center, as you come in the main entrance, the new administrative offices are built, the carpeting is in, the walls are being touched up and painted, the ceilings are all being what they call flooded, the ceiling tiles are being installed. So that's all moving. Our communication wiring, our phone, electrical, all of that is in process right now. It's moving ahead. It's tight. I think I mentioned to Mike, we're gonna be tight on it, but we're going to open. There's a lot going on at the high school. Elementary's a little further ahead, but different scope of work. We didn't have quite the same demo requirements. So if you to walk in the main entrance right now, you would see a very different look than maybe we had earlier when we took a walk in and they were doing the jackhammering and all of that. So you see the new sheetrock walls and the new tile entry and all of that. So that's all happening right now. Luckily, we don't have any DES issues out there or DOT issues, so I'm pretty happy with that. All the granite curbing for the new curb cuts, the transitions in and out of the property were all completed. They came out nice, so that's done. We had a construction meeting today, so one of the things, as you know, this part of the project, the high school is going to continue through until March, April of this year, or excuse me, next year. And so one of the things we're working on is where does the contractors park while we're under construction during that. So that's one of the conversations that Chris was involved with, as well as Ekman staff. So, we gotta be able to have them go someplace. And what is the flow for their access? So we're working on all of those to create those safe environments, not only for them to come in, but for our students to be in and about the school, so that we don't have them crossing into construction areas. Asbestos is always the thing we always touch base on. We've done quite a bit of asbestos abatement. Found a few things that we didn't know were there, but that happens when you rip out old walls. But all of that's been dealt with. So we're new flooring's all in, and it looks so much different. Even if you came 2 weeks ago, you would see a huge difference in the appearance of the building. So we're moving forward quite well.
And just remind me again, what use are we putting the building on the Carpenter property to? Are we still having that as an active?
The art building is still gonna be used as the art building currently, and I think it's, and Chris I don't know what program's gonna be in the art space, but I think there's a different program gonna be in the temporary.
High school art will stay for, probably the duration of this year.
Okay.
And part of the purpose for that is until, this phase is complete, we're still down about 11 classrooms, so what will become the art space in the new, reno, will be used for other programs until we're able to get, high school space to back up. So, that we didn't see the point in moving folks until it's gonna be the last move.
No, it's just gonna keep the traffic going across during the day and stuff like that. I would imagine.
The good news there, and that's a great point, the good news there is that, that was taking place before we started the project, so I think it's
Yeah,
great that we.
it's not a change.
Remind people that that was here before the project went on a bylaw, but good point.
And, the art building, what it becomes after this, it's still up in the air, and really gonna conversations with the superintendents envisions that down the road, so, those conversations haven't really happened. I just threw it out there for you. So, again, things are moving forward, we're pushing hard, and it's coming together. We will be opening, as we said we were, so. But, yeah, things are happening, so I don't know if there's any other information you would like on that?
Just in terms of, I hear that you're saying tight, and I describe this part of a renovation project as a bad game of chicken, see who blinks, and hopefully nobody has to. But what about teacher access in both buildings, actually? Will they be able to be in next week, or are they gonna be walking with the kids?
The teachers will have access next week. There will be some access on the 26th. The teachers will definitely be in the building on the 27th, 28th, 29th, and as I mentioned earlier, the 30th is they can have access. We're trying to limit it as much because that gives us that last minute of we got to move this and do that. So trying to keep those, but and the teachers don't have the day to work or have the day off for that. So, but the teachers will be in there. We're having extra people come in, a moving company to help move a lot at the end of this week and into the weekend. That's part of this. So, yeah, they'll be in.
Great.
We begged and pleaded, but as we were told in advance, well in advance, that it was gonna take every minute, and it has, but it's working out, so we'll get it ready.
Put a considerable amount of thought administratively into what the 3 PD days returning would look like, and adjusted our schedules to as much of that time as we could for teachers to get. It's a big concern.
Yeah, I'm sure that's stressful for them.
I suspect a communication will probably go out to parents as well, so they have an understanding of, what's going on and what sort of has happened. A lot has happened this summer as well,
In
so.
the next 2 weeks, you'll see that information as well as traffic flow maps, pieces such as that. Looks like a blessing of PD and fire. They'll come out.
And they actually did preliminary fire inspections today at the elementary, and that all passed. So I'm quite comfortable that that will be the case. The building inspector's been to both buildings, so.
I gather that's gonna be a decent part of the opening of the schools, is new fire drills and access points, and doing that several times to get everybody comfortable.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The only other quick question I had was the DOT drainage issue, if I understood from the
So
past.
I have reached out multiple times on that. It's not something they're willing to deal with. I've also talked to our to our Sean Gregg, our wastewater superintendent. Their part of the project, or what they're planning on going down that road, is literally a trench, which would not be extending into that area. I have reached out to a couple contractors to get an idea what it would cost us to tie that back in, so we can kind of start exploring that if that's something that we want to do.
Remind me what area we're talking about.
Out in front of the 152, which will be the, now it's one way, but at the start of school will be two-way. There is a catch base, two catch basins, and they're really more what's referred to as like a French drain. They're not piped to anything. They're just basically holes in the ground. So once they fill
Dry
in,
well,
what's that?
dry well.
It's a dry well. Yep. And so once it fills with water, until it slowly seeps into the ground, any excess water stays on the surface. And so one of the thoughts is maybe, depending on what we find, those could be tied into the stormwater system that's down the road a little ways. Elevations and all of that still have to be figured out, and obviously costing and who covers the costs and all that.
But regardless, yeah, that'd be pretty much of an on-us issue.
It is gonna
Even-
be on us.
It's not a DOT created issue.
It's DOT's system, but DOT's not willing to make those changes to it.
Yeah, well, we're the ones futzing with the property and creating the change, so.
Correct.
Good.
We aren't touching those two catch basins though, as part of this project.
So actually, it raises a decent point. Nothing we have done has altered that problem or contributed more to it. And the practical problem is in the winter, it freezes up, or even not, in the non-frozen season, you get puddles, and the problem is people that, walking on those sidewalks tend to walk out into the road. The state ought to be concerned about that. I mean, it's their problem, they've created,
Well, that's the issue I'm bringing up, in being able to get that balance, and who do you speak to about.
I've been in contact several times with the District 6, which is what we fall under with the DOT.
Do they understand that?
administrator. They understand, but it's not something that they're looking at this time.
It's a bigger issue.
That was the words, that they're not looking at it at this time.
It may be something we want to coordinate with a letter to them, so there's a record of it,
Yeah.
that we've, let them know, because that's an issue. I
Some
mean,
suggestion of liability.
Sure.
Yeah,
Mike, a little suggestion of liability is either for the school or them or both, why have hassle?
well, and it's just, even in the summer, I've seen puddles out there, and I've just seen pedestrians, joggers, whatever, having to, because the puddles are, foot deep or whatever, and just going around it.
I don't think they've ever
Well, it's a
been
problem up and
maintained.
down 152.
Yep.
I mean, when we had our public hearings during this whole process, we heard from a butter after a butter after a butter about the puddles on Route 152 and the lack of drainage. But we're certainly not increasing that flow at all.
Actually, we're probably
It's probably
decreased
just the opposite. We've probably alleviated some of that.
because the old parking lot runoff now goes to a collection system.
Sure.
So that's not running out into the road. We did update some culverts that are now controlling water better. And we have some settling areas. So we actually have two different major stormwater systems, or underground retention ponds, to actually control that water and allow it to slowly seep. So we've done things to actually decrease the runoff.
No question about it.
So, yeah, so
Maybe
but
that
those
should-
two areas are not ours. They're DOT property.
Well,
If we're
great.
forming a letter, putting that stuff in may be useful, that we decreased it, but it's not.
And I've made a note of that, to do that.
The other thing, Greg, I'm sorry, I was distracted, you might have mentioned it, but the town is doing a project or the state is doing a project, I think, upcoming along there, or the town's putting lines in.
The town
So
is
it's gonna
putting
get-
in new water lines down through there.
Yeah, it's
to
gonna get
upgrade
dug.
the water lines, and what I was kind of hoping to be able to do is kind of piggyback onto some of that. But I did find out that they're not opening up the whole road, they're only opening just a trench to lay the new line in, so it doesn't extend all the way over to the road edge. So I was kind of hoping we could work that, but that's not part of it. But it doesn't mean we can't work with the contractor and, DOT. I do know that if we do the connections ourselves, we sign a maintenance agreement with the DOT, which we have done for several different areas. So it's not unheard of for us to do that. So for instance, our new crosswalks lights, our school zone lights, all those are normally maintained by the DOT. We have a maintenance agreement because we wanted to update them, and so we maintain them.
And so they
And
provide us.
the town does a lot of that for the sidewalks and everything.
And DOT provides us with an easement if we're taking on a maintenance.
Correct. It's a formal process that they have for it. It's signed off by the town administrator for acceptance.
Yeah, as long as they shed the cost.
That's pretty much what it comes down to, yeah. So,
Any other questions on the construction updates? All right, Greg, you got some, you got
I
a.
got some financial stuff here, and I was lucky
Considering
to,
the coulda, shoulda,
I was able
wouldas, we're doing pretty
to
well.
actually sit with our new business administrator earlier today before, and we were just going through these numbers. You'll see this is a new format that I put together here, and it does list our original bond amount as well as any rebates, the sale of the shed, and it's less expenditures by year, so you'll know how much you spent each year. It also lists any of the encumbrances, or basically money that we've set aside on purchase orders as we continue through this project that are going to be definite expenses. I've also have on this a projected basis or projected cost that we will also be possibly expending as part of the project. Things like additional furniture, appliances, change orders that pop up. So that's on there. Additionally, we have our infrastructure money. If people remember our infrastructure that we got from Homeland Security, it talks about how much money we got there, where we've spent the money, and what part still remains. It also lists our impact fees as well as any projects that we did as part that can be attributed to the project or indirectly or directly, such as in this general fund, or what they call the Fund 10 fund, the sewer line at the elementary school, as well as the ledge cost, and a set of double doors that were replaced at the high school in the gymnasium, which was not part of the project. We covered that in our general operating funds or general funds. So it kind of gives you an idea. Basically, and I go all the way down to the bottom line of it, we're projecting right now, given all of the factors that we have, about $30,000 remaining at the end of the project after the added change orders and things like that. So we're still on the positive side, which is a good thing.
Enough for a good lobster dinner?
Be a very nice lobster dinner. But the good part is I was able to sit down with Mary today, and she actually is very comfortable with these numbers that I have on my end. So that was a good thing to hear. If you look at page 2 of that, it lists all of our change orders and change estimates that we have through this project. And one of the things I do want to mention in this, we haven't talked about it much, but it may be something that people remember. We showed change order number 1 at the elementary school as the sidewalks, but I want to remind everybody that our really first change order, if you want to call it that, was for all the ductwork improvements that we had to do at the elementary school, and that did come out of our project contingency funds right off the bat. So that was over $300,000. So it's not listed as change order because we actually included it in Ekman Construction's contract, but it did come out of those contingency funds as part of the project. So it's not housed there because it's not a change order because it became part of their regular contract, but it is an expense that we did incur as part of this project. All of these are basically any kind of projects we run into. You'll notice there's unsuitable, there's ledge blasting and removal, there's anything from new lobby doors at the elementary school to fire panel changes that we got credits for. There's big conduit run credits that we got. And actually, as of today, and I reviewed this with Chris and Susan, we're going to actually provide one of the pieces of equipment that had a line item that actually is going to end up giving us a fair amount of credit against this project. So for a new science fume hood. So we're actually going to we'll purchase it, and that will save us some funds, which is not depicted in here because it hasn't happened yet, but it will happen. So we're looking at about, I'll say between $33,000 and $35,000 credit. We're going to spend right around $7,000 to buy the hood. It's actually a portable display exhaust hood, self-capturing. It allows the teacher to actually move it around the classroom for demonstrations. The students can look on it. It's three-sided, it's a glass, so they can actually look in it. It allows some more flexibility. It actually allows them to move it between classrooms if they need be. So it's actually a pretty nice flexible piece of equipment. And it also puts some more money back on that bottom line, and we end up with the same result, if not a better result. And not Ekman's not part of the result, it's just we end up with a different type of piece of equipment than it was originally built in. So that's one thing that we've just recently did. So we are still on the positive side, and things are still moving, and we still have unassigned change order money sitting there, pretty close to $100,000. So that's my financial update.
Couple of quick things, just
Sure.
for I'm looking at the new format, and I missed my last meeting, I don't know if you explained it, but the pending impact fees?
Yeah, that is, we have impact fees that are still available to us.
Is that the 226 that we
No,
use?
that's already been applied. If you look at up on the
Right.
Fund 23, you'll see the 226, 783 and 97 cents. That's already been applied. This is an additional impact fees that will have to go through the school board as well as the town council for approval. And that right now is $57,237.92. That is not depicted anywhere of money being used for anything at this point because it still has an approval process. And the school board or the town council may have different ideas on it. So, but there are funds sitting there.
We
Now-
haven't applied for it yet.
Okay, but as I'm looking at this, the impact fees and that's not part of the bonding, that's outside the bonding, and then the expenses below it, you're saying, are what we're charging to the impact fees as far as the
No,
furniture?
if you look at Fund 23, the 226,000 actually was applied towards an invoice that we paid Ekman Construction, and that's already housed in our 5337 account under encumbrances. Or actually, excuse me, I should clarify, it's in expenditures FY 2019. That 226 was applied to an expenditure that we had in FY 2019, which ended June 30th of this year.
Okay, but that's not part of the bond, that's separate and aside, just saying we had
Yep.
impact fees, we applied
Correct.
them to
Yep,
this.
it's
It
not
hasn't
part of the
passed.
bond funds.
And the only additional money we potentially can get, depending on the vote of both town organizations, is another 57,000.
Correct. And again, that's, as Susan said, that is, hasn't been applied for, but there are those funds that are sitting there that could be utilized.
And we have the 516 of interest that we have not
Correct.
used at this point, that again needs to go through a process.
That has to go through a full warrant.
And the
That has to
town.
go to the vote, out to the voters.
So that'll be in March of next year, more than likely.
Correct.
The consideration, that's a good point, Russ, for that though, I think, will be in the coming this fall, September, given the timing of having to get warrants submitted.
Right.
Yeah, and so I suspect in maybe beginning the discussion in September, with a committee, and then maybe into October, because we do have a lot of ad alternates, and we may even be in a different financial place in a couple months, who knows? We'll need to make a decision whether or not this year to put that warrant on there in whole or in part, against that interest.
And I know we've changed calendar a little bit, but usually the school warrants were due to be finished by either end of December or mid-January, or somewhere in that target range.
Yeah, so we'll have to make the substantive decision between us and the school board, and then take some time to, get that processed and finalized.
And that's the only other out-of-bond potential source of funds we have at this point in time. Okay, thank you.
Sir, that's my report.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. We had I think, Greg, you might have covered it. Chris, I don't know if you're adding to it, the moving and phasing of the junior, senior high. Is that plan all kind of been worked out and
Yeah,
people
it's,
know where they're going and?
Well, and again, working with Greg and our maintenance crew and coordinating with Dan, the GC from Ekman, it really is just sort of going in reverse of what we did the first time. So having everything documented and organized, and we mapped out the Connex boxes. So if you said, hey, where's the furniture from room 226, we could say it's in the back half of box number 3. So we're just doing everything in reverse now. But I really, other than organize, I can't take any credit. That's Mr. Hudson and his crew, and Greg's done a nice job getting both crews at the two schools together to sort of, it's been a community endeavor. But really, those men and women deserve the lion's share of credit.
Just another food for thought, CIP, Capital Improvement Program stuff is gonna kick off, I think, at the end of August. What we did last year with the school is we ended up saying, why don't you just put the school projects in, for the $39 million, saying we're making capital improvements. But now that we're 1.5 years further along in the process, I don't know, we've changed the calendar on that. We try to get most of the work done, I think, in September and October, rather than dragging to year end. And I think Diane is getting me to call a meeting at the end of this month or the beginning of next to start the process. So I'm just thinking of all these things swirling around in the toilet bowl of money and what funds we have. And maybe we can give a little extra thought to what specific things may not be covered by the bond, but were things we should at least get on the table, whether we fund them or not. We may end up having a useful list for thought going forward.
And Russ, as you know, I'm part of that same committee with
Yep.
Diane as the staff liaison, so doing the town and school side, and that will continue as we did last year, so I'll be working on that also.
Okay, so,
It may make sense, and I apologize just for a second, just to remind folks that this is still an ongoing and active construction project, and though we'll be moving in, it's not permanent. We'll still have some construction noises, sights, sounds. We're still gonna finish our cafetorium. We've still got a roof project that's gonna involve some sound and sight and some distraction. We'll continue to work with Ekman to do our best, but I think it's important to sort of note where the finish line is in sight, but we're sort of at the Heartbreak Hill part of it. So I think that's just important to note.
Is it you saying they should drink more water and eat gel? Is that? Maybe both. No, it's right. I mean, this is perhaps, I would say, one of the most challenging periods we're entering into here, because we got our ongoing operations and ongoing construction, and
well, we've kept them separate, pretty much, I think, and a miraculous job of trying less interference in the past. But I also wonder about new security systems coming in, people moving into space that's being constructed, everybody coming back to school, and things being a little different. Are we planning on kicking the tires a few times on the security side of access to the building? Because there's going to be a lot of confusion and people who won't normally be there being around a lot closer to the premises and stuff.
And we've actually, as I mentioned earlier, Chris, myself, Brian Baruti from Ekman, and Dan Ball from Ekman worked today on that. One of those things was access and safe access to the schools. They're not gonna be coming through the front entrance. We're actually gonna use a entrance off the back of the building and create secured hallways so that they can get into those additions that they have to work in without being in the general student population areas.
Yeah,
So to create those safe zones.
it just strikes me as a lot of additional confusion to plan around that may not be permanent, but it needs to be put in at least.
I think had we not been I think we had the foresight to eliminate as much confusion as possible, so I'm more confident that the confusion will be less. I think starting 3 or 4 days with staff, and Sean and I worked on our first day plans that include tours and time for staff to actually walk from their classroom to the nearest exit and do some of those practices, which we do every year, but this year we put more time into it to eliminate that. We'll do the same thing with our kids when they get back.
Good luck. This is people are going to feel this, throughout. There's no doubt.
For sure. John, did you have anything? You're all good? All right, anything else? All right, well then let's adjourn. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll do a, no, we'll do a tour before the next meeting.